training. We build up our spiritual muscles. Or an annual physical. We go to the doctor, we see some things, we might have to change a little bit our diet, change things. So too during Lent, we have that time to look at our lives and to make changes and to correct some of the imbalances in life. But there are three traditional practices that the Church emphasizes during Lent. And it's prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And I thought this evening we'd do a short reflection on prayer. And I say short because I remember a study that was done in Detroit among Catholics, and they asked the question, what makes a good homily? And the best answer was, a good homily is 10 minutes. An excellent homily is 8 minutes. And Pope Francis would agree because a few months ago, he spoke to priests and said, don't bore the people, don't bore the people. He said 8 to 10 minutes is good. But just a brief reflection on prayer this evening. I want to begin with a question. Does anyone here pray too much? You know, when I asked that question to school kids, only the kindergarten kids raised their hands. The first graders, by first grade, they know that they don't pray enough. You know, and so probably it's a good thing to talk about prayer because all of us would admit that we could grow in our ability to pray and our generosity in praying. And it means we can all work during Lent on the practice of growing in our prayer life. And I asked the question, what is prayer? And the classical definition of prayer is lifting the mind and heart to God. Simply lifting our mind to heart and God. And we can do that 1,000,000 times in a day. You know, we can do it over a long period of time, we can do it over a short time, lifting mind and heart. If I would ask a group of school kids what is prayer, the answer I always get is talking to God. And that is true. That is, prayer is talking to God. And you know, we talk to God as we talk to our friends. We share things, we share who we are, we share our joys, our sorrows. But we have to be careful because prayer is not just talking to God, it's also listening to God. Because, you know, if we have a friend and the friend only talks and as soon as, you know, comes and tells how they're doing, all their medical problems and everything, the family problems, and then as soon as we're ready to say something, they walk away. We say, what kind of friend is that? Because we share, and that's talking and listening. Now, most of us are probably better at talking to God than listening to God because it's hard for us to listen. You know, we live in a time when there's so much noise in our world, so much activity in our world that it's hard for us to slow down. It's hard for us to be quiet and to listen to God. And we certainly listen to him through the scriptures. But St. John of the Cross says that silence is God's first language. Silence is God's first language. And we think during the day, how often are we silent? How often do we simply rest for a moment and allow God to be God? Psalm 146. How do we allow God to be God by being still before him? You know, I think that sometimes our world today, we're afraid of silence. You know, if there's a few moments of silence, even at Mass, we begin to get a little fidgety. You can kind of see people, what's going on, because we're so used to activity, we're so actually noise and activity in our lives. And so we need to, in order to pray, in order to listen to God, we need to be able to slow down. We need to be quiet to listen to God if silence is his first language. You know, be still and know that I am God. There's a danger, though, in thinking of prayer also as asking God for things, because I think a lot of people would say, well, that's what prayer is. It's asking God. And it's kind of it's the Las Vegas example of God. It's the slot machine. So many prayers in, you pull the slot, you get what you want, you know. Well, that's not a relationship. That's not a relationship for a lot of folks. That when we're in need, we think of prayer. And, you know, we probably all know people that when they need money or they need help, we see them, and then we don't see them again.